My name is Karen Olsoy, and I am a licensed master esthetician in the state of Washington. I own my own business, Grove and Cane, and have been a practicing esthetician there for the last 10 years. I can't believe I'm celebrating my 10-year anniversary as a small business owner. There at Grove and Cane, we do facials, peels, microneedling, and we have a member based practice there. I'm also an educator, so currently an educator for PCA Skin and Ulta MD. I've been doing that for about 9 years. And really, my passion is I really love to geek out on skin science. I want to know the why behind things. It's not enough for me just to hear what an ingredient does. I want to know why and how. And so I decided, why not just take you on the journey with me? One of the things I've also learned as being an educator is that when you have to learn information in order to teach it, it definitely sticks better. So really, this is just a selfish experiment or a selfish journey because I'm going to learn this information even better when I'm forced to communicate it to you all. So today is all about niacinamide. We hear that word all the time. Niacinamide really started gaining a lot of steam, I would say about 5 years ago. It seemed like every single skincare brand was talking about niacinamide and touting their products that contain niacinamide. I was interested to know how niacinamide really works in the skin and what it's doing. Because I feel like with niacinamide, it almost seems like what doesn't it do, right? There's a long list of benefits in the skin. And so I was interested to know more about kind of the practical aspects of how it works. So let's talk about what it is. So niacinamide is a form of vitamin B3. You might have heard of niacin, and niacinamide is used almost identically as niacin by the body. So it doesn't really matter which form you use. But niacin does have some unpleasant side effects. So a lot of people will claim that taking a niacin supplement will make them kind of flush and gets that blood flow kind of pumping, can make your cheeks look kind of red. Niacinamide, the body can use it identically. It doesn't actually have that flushing and blushing that the niacin does. So sometimes when I'm talking to my clients about niacinamide, they'll even reference that. Oh, is that going to make me blush and blush? No, topical niacinamide does not cause blushing and blushing. So niacinamide is a precursor to two really important compounds in our body. And in fact, I should say, really two important compounds in all living animals, possibly plants too, but and definitely all the animals have this very important cellular respiration process that is dependent on these two compounds. The two compounds are nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, or we can just say NAD for short. And then the other one is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, or NADP for short. So just to kind of recap, niacinamide is going to be broken up and kind of repurposed into those two ultra important compounds. So niacinamide is going to be turned into NAD and NADP in your body. I mentioned that these two compounds are really important, but let me just kind of explain why. NAD and NADP are known as carrier compounds. So basically what they do is they ferry around hydrogens and electrons. So they're kind of carrying around these hydrogens, which also have electrons orbiting them, if you remember back to high school chemistry. And it is this transfer of these hydrogens and electrons that are so, so important to our cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is how our cells, the mitochondria of our cells, actually create energy from the food we eat. So kind of important, right? I'm not going to go much more into detail onto that. Number one, because I'm not a chemist and I probably won't do it justice, but also because that doesn't really have as much to do with the benefits in the skin. But just know that these are super important for all living animals. I should check and see if it's all living organisms or if it's just the animal kingdom, but fairly certain it's it's animals, cells that respirate. Okay, anyway, going back to this. So when NAD is in that state, it is actually missing an electron. And so when it gains an electron, it's been reduced. So it's gained a hydrogen and therefore its electron. That is now NADH. And in that form, it is now an antioxidant. So we hear about antioxidants a lot because what antioxidants do is they're donating free electrons so that compounds that are missing electrons will stop kind of bouncing around and damaging tissues. So if a compound is missing an electron and it feels incomplete, it will go around and chemically interact with different chemicals and compounds and structures in its environment and try to steal electrons. And you can see that if a compound is trying to steal electrons from a cell membrane or, worst case scenario, your DNA, that is going to be really bad. It's going to damage those structures. And of course, that is also going to lead to premature aging. So we don't like, those would be known as a free radical, right? A compound that is unstable and damaging things. We don't want that. We want antioxidants to come in and say, hey, buddy, here's an electron. That way you can stop damaging other things in your quest for that missing electron. Okay, so going back to our discussion about NAD and NADP, when they have this added hydrogen and electron added onto them, they are now antioxidants. And so basically what this means is that if you take niacinamide or you topically apply it, it is going to be turned into NAD and NADP, and then by extension, it is also going to, when it does collect that extra hydrogen electron, it will become an antioxidant. So number one benefit of niacinamide is that it will become an antioxidant. So I hope I have not lost all of you guys yet. I promise it's going to get a little bit less chemically as we continue on in this episode. But number one benefit of niacinamide, it's an antioxidant. And we know antioxidants are great to reduce inflammation and also reduce premature aging. Okay, another kind of component of this is that NADP and NADPH, we like to say the reduced forms of them, those are the forms that have that extra electron that they can donate, the antioxidant forms. They also inhibit what's called the Maillard reaction, which causes glycation. So glycation is an instance where protein and sugar are bound together, and it basically creates this glycated protein. It damages the protein, and it can lead to this kind of yellowing, this yellowy look. So think about if you put toast in a toaster, it turns kind of caramelized. It gets that nice brown color. That's actually glycation. Or think about like if you sear meat or a creme brulee, right? That's all glycation. And it turns out that when that happens to the proteins in your body, that's not good. It leads to damage, and it actually is a pretty good biomarker for what your biological age is. So glycation is not good. And in particular, when it comes to the skin, it will make your skin look yellow. So just like a creme brulee or that kind of, caramelized look is kind of a yellowy brown color, you'll actually see it in your skin, especially if you, are not very healthy. Diabetics are often really prone to this just because they have elevated blood sugar. And so you can see that glycation is a bigger issue for people that are diabetic. So NADP and NADPH, right, the reduced forms of those compounds which have the extra electron, the antioxidant forms, also inhibit glycation. So if you are concerned with that sallowness and that skin yellowing in your skin, if you've started to notice that as you've gotten older, niacinamide is going to reduce that. So the rest of this podcast, I'm going to be highlighting a really great study that was done. It was a 12-week study with 49 Caucasian females aged between 40 and 60 years old. And really the purpose of the study was to analyze and really see what kinds of changes could be measured in the skin, especially with concerns to skin aging, when they were using a 5% topical niacinamide. So I'm not going to go into great detail about the study. It does look like it was pretty rigorously done. And basically what happened was that each participant had a 2-week washing out period where they were just using a basic cleanser and a basic moisturizer. And then from there, they were randomly assigned 2 moisturizers, one for each side of their face. It was randomly assigned which side of their face was going to be the moisturizer was going to have a 5% niacinamide added to it, and then the other one was going to be the placebo, which was just the base formula without the niacinamide. And then from there, the results were evaluated at 4, 8, and 12-week intervals. And then there were 3 graders that graded a few different aspects of the skin. There's also quite a bit of advanced imaging that was used. And so they wanted to take a look at redness or blotchiness, skin yellowing, hyperpigmentation, and also general signs of aging, wrinkles and lines. So what was the result? Number 1, there was less red blotchiness in the skin that was treated with the niacinamide versus the control. So definitely less redness. The potential method of action for that could be that niacinamide is also, it's a cofactor, it's an important coenzyme that creates and encourages many different processes in the body, including that it could increase lipid and protein components of the stratum corneum. So basically what it's doing is almost it's fortifying components of the stratum corneum. And of course, the stratum corneum is the outermost layer of the epidermis. So it's the outermost layer of the outermost layer. And really, it's the stratum corneum that we care about when it comes to barrier function. So barrier function is going to be a topic for another podcast, so I will not go into great detail here. But just know that if you want skin that resists irritation, that does not dry out easily, that's not sensitive, that doesn't have redness and blotchiness, you want good barrier function. And so in this case, the niacinamide did reduce redness and blotchiness, and possibly through increase in lipid and protein within the stratum corneum. And so that also has the effect of reducing transepidermal water loss, which then also further bolsters barrier function. But take home, with all that said, take home is that niacinamide does reduce redness and blotchiness. Yay. The second component was, how do generalized signs of aging look? So wrinkles and lines. By 12 weeks, there was a 5.5% reduction in wrinkles and lines in the niacinamide group. So that's actually huge, because if you think about it, having a 5%, like a noticeable reduction in wrinkles with just cleansing and using a moisturizer with niacinamide, that's actually pretty substantial. That's not with any treatments. That's not with any serums or any other exfoliation. That's just measuring niacinamide. That's pretty impressive. So the potential ways that this is happening, it could be, there's 2 different theories about how niacinamide actually helps with fine lines and wrinkles. Number 1, niacinamide is going to stimulate collagen production. So that's one of the theories, that you are basically, encouraging and facilitating those chemical reactions that are happening within the fibroblast to actually create more collagen. So that's number 1. Number 2, another potential reason why this might, the lines and wrinkles might improve, is that we are reducing, the niacinamide is reducing glycosaminoglycans in the dermis. So those are known as GAGs, glycosaminoglycans. They are certain chemicals that are really actually quite important in the dermis. There's a whole class of them. Like hyaluronic acid is also, I believe, classified as a GAG, but it's really about the balance of GAGs. You don't want too many GAGs, because if you have too much of these compounds, you will actually have more accentuated wrinkling and textural changes to the skin. So like the dog breed, the Shar-Peis, they have that wrinkled look on their skin, and it's because they have a genetic propensity to overproduce gags in their skin. So, second potential way that niacinamide is helping with wrinkling is that it's reducing excess glycosaminoglycans production. And it possibly could be both together, both increasing collagen and by reducing excess gags. So anyway, less wrinkles, though, is always a win. Yay. We already talked about reduced skin yellowing. That was found to also be the case in the study. We saw reduced skin yellowing, and that is through the inhibition of that myriad reaction. And then the last thing that was noted in the study was that there was reduced hyperpigmentation. So they were actually able to measure the amount of area that hyperpigmentation spots were taking up on the face versus the control. And there was a significant reduction in the skin that was treated with the niacinamide versus the control. And in this case, the theory is that niacinamide is going to inhibit or prevent the transfer of melanosomes from melanocytes to the surrounding keratinocytes. So just a little recap. Melanocytes are cells found deep within the epidermis, and their job is to create pigment in the skin. And they do that by creating these little balls of pigment or little packets of pigment known as melanosomes. And then those melanosomes travel along the arms of the melanocyte and are then physically kind of injected into the surrounding skin cells. And that's how we get pigment in our skin. And so it is at that point where niacinamide is going to inhibit the transfer. So it's going to prevent the transfer of those melanosomes from the melanocyte into the surrounding keratinocyte. And that's how we are going to see a reduction in pigment, hyperpigmentation overall. So as a recap, niacinamide is going to reduce redness. That's through barrier strengthening, less wrinkles by increasing collagen and decreasing excess gags, reduce skin yellowing. That's because it inhibits skin glycation. And we're going to see less hyperpigmentation because of that inhibiting the transfer of melanosomes. So that's a lot of really great benefits. And not to mention that I think one of the best aspects of niacinamide is that it is so well tolerated by even the most sensitive skin. So unlike, say, retinoids or other acids, even vitamin C, that's ascorbic acid, those can be topically irritating, especially if you have someone with maybe some impaired barrier function or really dry, easily sensitized skin. And niacinamide just does not cause a reaction for people. So if you have more sensitive skin or you're an esthetician recommending products for your clients, you should never feel qualms about recommending products rich in niacinamide for your clients that are sensitive. It's really, they're not going to have a problem with it. And then also just from a formulation standpoint, niacinamide is fairly straightforward to formulate with. It does not oxidize in formulation. It's very stable even in water. So it makes it easy you can put it in a serum, you could put it in a mask, you could put it in a moisturizer. It's very straightforward, easy. And so those are some of the big benefits to using niacinamide. So you can see why so many brands and so many products use niacinamide in their formulations. So whether you're looking to reduce hyperpigmentation, wrinkles, redness, skin yellowing, or you just want to maintain the health of your skin, definitely look for niacinamide in your products. And, I think one of the things I'll tell my students too is that, if you're trying to think of an ingredient that's in a product, if you're blanking on what ingredients are in a product that you're educating a guest about that product, I would say you have a 75% chance that niacinamide is in that product. Find a serum, pull out a few of your serums and see what percentage of them do include niacinamide somewhere on that ingredient list. You'll be pretty surprised how often it's put in things. And after hearing all these benefits, I think you probably have a better understanding of why. Lots of great benefits, very little downside. So I think niacinamide definitely here to stay. Thank you so much for listening.